Rev up your engines!
Well, GM now has to face a giant class action over their faulty transmissions. I know they were bad for years, right? And I'm telling people, they're bad for years. Well, even when they first came out, a lot of them didn't work right. And you know what the GM dealer said? Well, that's normal for those type of transmissions. They're new and they're normal. We'll fix them as time goes on. Then they come up with software fixes, and of course, they don't fix it. They still work crappy because they weren't built right in the first place. General Motors was just ordered by a federal appeals court to face a class action suit by knowingly selling several 100,000 cars, trucks, and SUVs with faulty transmissions. These are the 8L45 or 8L90 8-speed automatic transmissions from 2015 to 2019. That's a lot of transmissions. And they were garbage. See, the thing was, GM and Ford were working together, and they made that 10-speed automatic transmission that you could see in the Camaros. You could see it in Mustangs. You could see it in a lot of the big Ford trucks had these 10 speeds. And even the people with the Fords that they're still making, they don't particularly like them most of the time. But the whole thing fell apart between GM and Ford. The cats and dogs started fighting again. So GM decided 10-speed with Ford, it's not working out. We'll make our own 8-speed. Well, guess what? They made a pile of crap. These transmissions shudder and shake at higher gears, hesitate and lurch in lower gears. And this is even after they tried to repair them. And of course, the GM dealers just said, well, that's how those things are. Yes, it is how those things are. But it's not right. It's like when somebody brings me a car and they said, we went to the dealer and they said, this is normal. And I'll say, well, that noise, yes, it's normal for your GM vehicle because they made them all wrong. But they're not supposed to make a noise. I'll take them for a ride in my Toyota. I said, see, you don't hear any noise coming from that wheel? Now we get in your car. Hear the noises coming from that wheel. Yeah, because they didn't make it right. And now it's worn out. GM fought tooth and nail to try to stop the class action suit, but they lost. One of the things was GM said there were too many differences among class members to justify a group lawsuit. Who cares? What's the people that are making the suits? Who cares if there's differences amongst them? The commonality is they all bought your stupid vehicles and the transmissions don't work right. So even a judge threw that out and said, no, we're not a class action lawsuit. So if you own one of those crappers, hey, join the lawsuit. See what you can get out of GM. As usual, though, the lawyers will probably get most of the money. That's how it always works in class action. And then you'll get some peanut. Oh, here's $800 for you. But the lawyers took in $400 million. Well, you know how I warn you not to buy GM vehicles? Well, here's a letter from Mr. Height. And what does he say? Scotty, my mom purchased a 2016 Buick Verano last year. She was a fan of Buicks, but this is her first that's newer than the year 2000. She went ahead with the purchase. And now we had to replace the engine because it failed completely. But they didn't stop there. It vibrates, makes noises when turned off. We've had multiple sensor failures. We're not sure which ones. One day, stuck in midday traffic, it showed us stability error, which limited our speed to 20 miles per hour on the highway. The dealer insists there's nothing wrong with it. And it only has 66,000 miles on it. Yeah, well, I warned you, not to buy it. And you were smart. You told her, but she didn't listen to you. Oh, I like my Buicks. Yeah, because she never owned one that was newer than the year 2000. They were still making decent vehicles in 2000, 2001. They aren't anymore. And of course, now the Buicks you buy in the United States, they're SUVs, and most of them are made in China. They have nothing to do with GM. It's GM China that's making the things, right? Kind of a sneaky deal. They're making them in China, but they bring them in the United States as GM. They don't have to pay a sheriff on a Chinese vehicle. So listen to me, people. Listen to me. Don't buy these things. Don't get stuck. Well, I got to put an engine in it. It only goes 20 miles an hour on the highway. You don't want to buy these vehicles. Well, here's a bit of pompousness here. Walter Chrysler's great-grandson wants to buy Chrysler and Dodge, but Stellantis says, no thanks. He's so peeved at how crappy they made the vehicles. Frank Rhodes Jr., who's a great-grandson of the starter of Chrysler, I have a daring plan for the company to maintain American heritage and reinvigorate a brand that come back to the roots of design innovations, as well as affordable auto brands. He wants Stellantis to sell them, Chrysler, Dodge, and Mopar. Of course, Carlos and the boys said, oh, no, we're gonna make it work. Yeah, they're gonna make it work. They'll probably drag it into the ground, and it'll fall apart, and then they won't even exist at all. But that's a typical pompousness of Europeans who think they know what they're doing. Now, let's face the facts. The Europeans have screwed up with Chrysler for a long time. Mercedes bought Chrysler. It was Daimler Chrysler. Mercedes actually started to make the Chryslers better, but they were losing so much money, they got rid of it. They were losing billions. So Then a guy took it over from them, and then it was Chrysler LLC, but he was shopping them around. Then he sold them to Fiat, right? Another European company buys Chrysler. It goes even worse. And then what happens? They're bought by Stellantis, yet another European company, and Chrysler's going even further down. But they won't admit it. Right? And the great-grandson, he wanted to bring it back, try to get something going, and they don't want anything to do with it because they won't admit failure. Hey, the best thing about an intelligent person is you admit failure, you learn from it, and you don't do it again. You just don't keep running to the ground till the pit is so deep you can't get out and you're stuck in the bottom of the pit. Intelligent people learn from their mistakes. Well, I guess all these companies that keep buying Chryslers, they didn't learn from their own mistakes or their other people's mistakes. I guess the only people that really learned were the Germans. Daimler bought it and then they got rid of it. They learned, big mistake, we won't do that one again. Well, here's some Ford news that I really don't care about at all. Maybe you care about this stuff, but the 2025 Ford F-150 is no longer having the standard security code keypad where you're outside, you push the buttons to get in your car. Now you got to pay $455 extra for it. That was standard feature. Now they're getting rid of it because, why? Because they want to make more money and charge you for something that used to be free. I personally hate those things. After a while, they break. Now, what's the point anyways? You gotta have your transponder to start the car. Let's say you're like, I don't have my keys, my transponder. You can push buttons, get into the car, right? But you still need the transponder to drive this stupid thing. I mean, people were trying to defend it that liked it, say, well, you have various levels of security in a car. You can allow to get into the car, but you can't start it, right? Well, come on now. The only reason you really needed it, you don't have your keys to get in, right? But you still got to start the thing, so you need the keys to start them. If they work such that you see your keys in there and you can't get in, you push the buttons to get in. But most cars these days, you can't lock the door if you leave your transponder in the car. It'll beep, 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 and it'll say, look, you stupid moron, you left the keys in the car. I'm not going to lock the doors, right? So to me, it serves no purpose at all. I think it's a very stupid thing. But, you know, some people like it, and now if they do, they're going to have to pay $455 extra to have the stupid feature that I really don't care about one way or the other. TS Fan 13 says, when I push the button from my driver's side window to go up, it does that, but doesn't stop. It hits the top and then goes all the way back down. Am I doing something wrong? The first thing you want to do is get a flashlight and look up there. Maybe there's something jammed in there. If it will, it'll hit that and it'll pop back down. Right? But say it's perfectly clean, it's going up and it's going back down by itself. That means you're going to need a new motor assembly in most cases because there's a sensor. And if the sensor breaks, it'll just keep going up and down. That's how those things work. They work by pressure sensors, and they do break over time, so that it'll just go up and down and up and down. And then in that case, you're going to have to go buy yourself a new motor assembly, and most of the cars are set up that way. Some of the real expensive cars have an even more complex system, but most cars, you need a new motor assembly. Switch is built into that, so then it'll go. But do look up. Maybe you're lucky. Maybe there's something stuck in there, a twig or a kid's toy got jammed up in there. Look inside, and if that's the case, take it out and it'll fix it. And it won't cost you anything. Flywell says, I waxed my Mustang convertible. I got some wax on a black plastic trim below the doors. It's dried up. I see the white film. Is there any product I can use to remove it? Thanks. Yeah, I've been using Goo Be Gone for ages. Goo Be Gone is fantastic for getting things off. Now, realize the paint on your car has been on there for years. It was all dried and heat. It's on there solid. So the wax is just sitting there. The Goo Be Gone, put it on for maybe 40, 50 seconds. Do it in the shade, not the sun. And it'll wipe that wax stuff right off. Goo Be Gone is a pretty good product. There's a bunch of different ones out there that do the same exact thing. But I've been using that Goo Be Gone for a long time. And it's pretty good for getting just about anything off. And it doesn't hurt anything either. Do it in the shade, then wipe it off, and then polish it all off. I've been using it for years. There's all kinds. They make a spray. They also make a liquid one that's kind of like a gel between a liquid and a gel. You might use the gel one because it'll just sit there and it won't get all over the place for those cracks, and then you could wipe it all off. Get a nice microfiber towel, wipe it all off. Then when you're done, a lot of people don't know know, you got a microfiber towel and it's impregnated with that crap, then sometime throw it in the washing machine when your wife's clothes aren't in the washing machine and wash it to get all the goo off so you can use it over. Well, I can't help but laugh at this one. 3 Tesla Cybertruck owners are driving from Florida to the Arctic Circle and they're having problems. And guess what problems they're having? Getting the stupid thing charged. You go from British Columbia up to the Arctic Circle, where are you going to find charging stations? Some of those places don't even have electricity. They might have a generator here and there, but hey, what do you expect? You know, it'd be like having a hydrogen fuel car. You know, we're having a problem with a hydrogen fuel car driving it to the Arctic Circle. There's no hydrogen fueling stations. Yeah, duh. Why do you think those explorers brought their own fuel with them? Back in the day when they were trying to do it with ships, trying to find the Northwest Passage, right? They brought their own fuel for their ships on them. They didn't expect to find any there. Heck, there's no trees there, so they can't cut down trees, make a boiler run, you know. You got to bring your own fuel, right? You can't bring your own electricity when you got a battery-powered car. So kind of a shocker now. I'm sure they'll have other problems, but then they're saying, well, there's some chargers, but they don't work with the Teslas and la, la, la. And then people are saying, it's not fair. People in rural areas don't have the charging infrastructure that they do in the big cities. Well, hardly anybody does. So, I mean, that's just an excuse to try to waste government money. We'll build charging stations in the rural area. Now, nobody in the rural area is buying electric cars, so it'd be pretty useless anyway, right? These things aren't ready for prime time. And if they get stuck in the freezing cold, who's going to come rescue them? Huh? The polar bears will eat them, maybe. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.